What's happening, guys? My name is June Hlongwane. Welcome to my channel, and on this channel I provide commentary on politics and current affairs. I just want to get into this IRR poll. That's the purpose of the video, so I want to jump straight into it. The IRR is the Institute for Race Relations, and they conducted a poll, I think about a couple of days ago. If you are not familiar or don't know anything about the story, or if you have not been following the news, because it's been a massive story, mainly because of what the numbers are telling. So the Institute for Race Relations conducted what they call a public opinion poll. The Institute for Race Relations is an advocacy group. They've been around for many years, and they do these on an annual basis. So the last poll that the IRR had conducted would have been leading up to the national elections that we had in May of 2024. So since then, they did another study. They did another poll after the formation of the GNU. So this poll would have been basically a sense check after all of those developments, just to get that correct. This poll was conducted between the 27th and the 3rd of April of 2025, the one that I'm focusing on today. And I think that's significant because we do know that just before the 27th of March, one of the greatest or the biggest events in our politics that has kind of shaped conversation and a lot of the discourse that we are currently still experiencing now in politics was the VAT issue. We know that the contention with the VAT, or the back and forth, began right after the 19th of Feb. And in fact, this has reflected in the survey that the IRR conducted, meaning that it has also become a big play in terms of how people responded to this particular survey. And the main story, obviously, with this poll is it's showing the ANC losing support. If you would remember, the ANC dropped in the national elections last year from a majority party to about 41%. If you round it off, they gained support, according to what the IRR were polled right after the elections as a result of the formation of the GNU. And then where we are now with this March poll, the ANC is down again. Basically just continuing the trajectory which a lot of people foresaw, and what we basically saw happening in the elections is basically picking up in that the growth is declining. The ANC losing, while on the other side, the DA is gaining support. They grew from 21% to 30% in terms of what the IRR is reporting. But what's really significant with the Democratic Alliance in what we're seeing with the IRR numbers is that the DA is also growing rapidly in terms of the support amongst the black voter. It is said that in the last poll that they did, they had a 5% growth in terms of black supporters, basically new black supporters supporting the DA. So the way the poll is kind of phrased is that they would ask people, I haven't really went as far in depth to understand how they go about the channels, and is it face-to-face, is it phone calls? But the question would be, if you were to vote today, who would you vote for? So this result is reflective of the responses there. And with this question being asked, 18% more black voters said they would vote for the Democratic Alliance, which would be a massive jump to what the IRR had tested in the past. And that really becomes the story around this poll. That becomes the reason why there is debate, because Democratic Alliance and the DA, I believe, make up politics in South Africa. They are the giants in politics. And whether you look at it in terms of the political spectrum between left and right, ANC would represent left, the DA would represent right. And also, we do know a lot of the splinter parties that have come into the scene within the past decade, whatever, breakaways from either ANC or from the DA. In this era, we're seeing a lot of breakaway from the DA. You have the likes of Action SA, the likes of Build One South Africa, some members of Rise Mzansi as well. So the DA and the ANC are politics in South Africa. They hold that position. So looking back again to the IRR poll, let's just quickly do a breakdown of the top four. I want to focus on the top four, starting with the African National Congress. I did speak about the fact that African National Congress is losing support. According to the IRR, when they won elections, they were sitting at about 40%. The IRR has put them now at 21%, which is about an 11% sort of drop, right, from the support that they had gained coming out of the elections. But the question I have, especially when I look at social media, is why is this controversial? Why is this a shock? Why is there debate around the fact that the ANC is losing power? I don't get it. Like, why is it a shock, right? Of course, when I saw this, I celebrated. If you follow me on Twitter, or if I was happy about it. But I'm just like, when people are saying, no, this can't be the fact, why would this be a shock? Why would this be controversial? In every aspect of our lives, and I think this is an important reference, right, to just bring it home. In every aspect of our lives, we are results focused. When you order food via Uber Eats, Mr. D, and the delivery comes and the food is not what you ordered, or it is not in the standard which you were expecting, I mean, it doesn't have to look like what it looks like in the TV ad, but if it's not what you're expecting, you speak up, you act, you don't support that shop again, you write a complaint, you put a bad review, and. We are results focused in every aspect of our lives, except for when it comes to politics. Hence, the question is, why is this a shock? For people who are not sure, for people who are saying, no, this poll can't be. It can't be that the ANC is sitting at about 29%. And. Why would that be? Why would that not be a case? Why? What am I missing? And then we have the Democratic Alliance. Again, the winners in terms of what this poll is showing, the biggest winners. There was growth from the MK party, there was growth from the EFF, but the DA had the most significant growth from when obviously taking the win from the elections. And also the fact that the DA grew, surpassing the ANC by about a percentage and some point something. Big story, so big win. And which again, I spoke about the fact that the budget or the VAT issue was a big test for this particular poll, or when they conducted this test. So the DA coming in a really good position when it comes to the VAT issue, because one, they opposed any form of increase, whether it's corporate tax, VAT, whatever. They oppose any kind of increase, and instead said, do not increase. If you do increase, we would support you as a DA, given that you implement A, B, C, D. They had their terms and conditions. So I want to break that down a little bit. I want to firstly begin with another sentiment, maybe not necessarily tied to the poll, but because the poll now is showing the aftermath or a result of what a decision like what the DA had done on the VAT, it's basically showing what could be if they took more decisions like that. Let's talk about the opposition, right? The way the DA has opposed VAT, and people saying that this is not pro-poor. A lot of it coming from the media, not surprising there, right? And I want to ask a question, how is it not pro-poor? When the DA says no to any VAT, any tax increase, how is that not pro-poor? People hold on to the fact that no, it cannot be pro-poor. The DA is not a pro-poor party, because in exchange for supporting VAT, which is what they said they would support VAT, given that certain reforms and certain conditions are met, conditions like what? Anti-socialism policies, conditions like what? Scrapping anti-socialism policies, conditions that are suggesting that we reduce spending, and people say that is anti-poor. Anti-poor. Excuse me, that is pro-poor. That is pro-poor, and that is the truth. Because why are we dancing around the truth? Whenever there is, for example, you take the past 30 years, and people like to pretend like 30 years is just a couple of days. It is a long time. In fact, it could take the past 15 years, and you could still make a very, very clear picture with just the past 15 years, right? In the past 15 years, we've seen a breakdown in every area that pertains to the government, right? Poor governance, lack of infrastructure, water issues, electricity issues. When all of these things happen, who does it affect first? The people at the bottom. So the fall is bottom up. So a break in governance, a break in any of these entities that the government is responsible for, a project not going according to plan, or a project not going according to the budget, affects the poor person far greater than it would affect you and I. If someone is given a contract to fix the road and they don't fix the road in time, and they don't fix the road according to the budget, and they have to now dig in and get more money out, that affects the poor person far more than it would affect me and you. Of course, you and I are affected in the long run, but it would have a far bigger effect on the poor person. Because that's just how it works. When you get wealthier, you have proof from certain things. The more money you have, the more proof you have. I've spoken to people when we had severe load shedding. And I mean, in this home, we've tried to get backup for Wi-Fi and things like that. But there are people that are completely off the grid. If there was to be a power outage today, they would not even know it happened, unless maybe they see it in the news or whatever. But they wouldn't be affected by it, right? There are people that have two tanks in their homes, which connect immediately to supply water should there be any issues in the municipality. What about a poor person, guys? So we really have to be honest. We have to tell the truth. Someone who's who's saying no to socialism policies, someone who's saying no to government spending more money, someone who's saying no to increasing of VAT and tax, that is pro-poor, even if it's coming from the DA. That is pro-poor, okay? Pro-poor. And while we are on the DA, before I move on to MKP, I just want to say that it would not make sense if for example, the DA had majority 50+1, and they were the government with majority support, and they came in and said to us that we're going to increase VAT given that we get A, B, C, D. That scenario would not make sense. But remember, we are in a coalition. Very, very important to understand. The ANC, right, is a socialist party. They have all of these welfare systems. And number one, they are the one proposing the VAT increase, right? They want to protect social grants. They want to protect the public sector. They want to make sure that they don't lose support with unions, and they don't want to lose funding for all of these programs that they make in order to gain support. On the other hand, you've got the Democratic Alliance. The Democratic Alliance is pro-growth, right? They are there because their voters believe in growth. They want markets to grow. Voters believe in jobs. Their voters want entrepreneurship, and. What becomes a trade-off? The DA is saying to the ANC that, okay, cool, you can keep your socialism programs, given that you, one, fix the issue of expropriation. You cannot expropriate with nil compensation. Two, Bella Act, you cannot enforce ABCD, taking away the rights and the powers of parents to be able to state how their kids must be taught, for example. Three, let's reduce spending here and there, right? The ANC must be able to compromise on some things if they want to keep social grants, if they want to keep the size of the public sector without having to cut jobs, or without having to diminish social grants or cut some of the programs. So it's a trade-off. I think for me, this is quite a really smart play from the Democratic Alliance to say, you're a socialist party, you're all about spending, we are a growth party. So how do we meet each other halfway? I think the DA is fairly reasonable in this case to say, expropriation, we just have to fix that clause. Because now, if the ANC is saying, we want to increase VAT, yet we want to keep with socialism, we want to keep with our programs, but we want to also expropriate with no compensation. What does that lead to? That leads to a collapse, poverty. Because one, you are clamping down on growth, expropriation. Ain't no business owner wants to hear about expropriation. Just that's a fact. And then at the same time, you want to increase VAT, putting a strain on every single person who is earning an income. And then at the end of the day, you are chasing away the business owner. There's no balance. So I think the DA is in a really, really, really good position. And to me, honestly, I think it's a great play. They must press on, because I think this is where South Africa actually benefits from the so-called GNU. If these kind of moves are being played, that is my. And then we've got MKP. According to the poll, they grew from 14% to 15%, about a 1% jump from what they got in the elections. And MK Party also opposed that, which again, I think that's a positive. We thank them for that, because in the battle that the DA is fighting with the ANC, we need as many people to fight on your side as much as possible. But to be honest with MKP, I have not really seen much of a follow-up. I have not seen them leverage this time as much in terms of really coming in and making it about whatever. I don't really follow the MK Party people that much, to be honest. So maybe I missed it, but I have not really seen as much of a follow-up, because I watch the news, which sometimes they kind of bring all voices, and I haven't really seen them emphasize. But I think in general, when it comes to Umkhonto Party in general, I don't know about you guys, but with MK Party, I always say that I know Jacob Zuma. There's a lot of things that are a mystery in the world. Like, if you look at other members of MKP, I don't really know the guys. I don't know them much. I don't follow them at all. to really make a judgment. But Jacob Zuma, I know Jacob Zuma. He led South Africa for 2 terms. We know the guy. So I don't know if there's an amnesia going around, because even this 15%, I don't know, people have the cleared memory, but in reset factory settings, we know who this person is, guys. I asked a question on my Twitter thing the other time, other day, that if Uzuma were to get power, right, what are the chances of the Guptas making a U-turn? What are the chances of the Guptas popcorning from wherever they're hiding? What are the chances? So MKP is an interesting bunch, because we know Jacob Zuma, we know the leader. You know what I mean? And then lastly, EFF also just getting a bit of something, yeah, and a 1% growth, according to what IRR's poll is saying, from the 9% that they got in the elections, sitting at about 10% now, based on this new study. That's growth. And the EFF, very, very impressive in terms of how they've approached the VAT story, I must say. They also opposed the 2%, they opposed the 0.5%. Stunning. Here for it. I think that support, they position on VAT, just like the DA, has really, really been felt. Particularly Sinawo Tambo. I've listened to a couple of interviews that he's done. The recent one was when he was not debating, but he was on the SABC show that Clement Manyatela hosts with Musi Maimane, and made some solid points, right? The posture on VAT, I think, has really been great. It's been good to watch. And like I said, the more support that is anti-VAT, anti-increasing VAT, as a South African, I'm grateful for that, even if it comes from far left candidates like the EFF. And I think in general, it just, for me, goes to show that the EFF, the EFF, in some of the way in which they present themselves in some instances, I think they would be a very strong contender against the ANC. And potentially they could be the second biggest party, right? But some of the values they don't make sense to me, right? One, the borders. Without a border, you don't have a country. The whole reason why countries exist, they are mainly existing because of the borders. And I think also very important to realize that in each and every country, you've got your minerals, you've got all of these great things. And that stuff is only preserved because you've got borders. And if we are going to be a non-border country where we don't allow borders, that would probably assume that other countries want to do the same. But I don't really think other African countries are thinking the way that Malema is thinking. They don't want to just share what they have and just say, "Wonkumun" to come in. Whatever they have in their country, they want to use that to make money. They want to use that to trade and strengthen themselves and strengthen the economy. So they're not trying to, like, for example, Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe? Stunning scenes. I can't just rock up there. I have to go through a border gate. I have to pay and all of that, because that should benefit the Zimbabwean economy. It's a beautiful sight. It's in Africa. Zimbabwe is my neighbor. I could just go there and just watch the thing and come back, but it's not that simple. So very, very interesting posture on the borders. In terms of open borders, I think they lose my support immediately in terms of just this doesn't make any sense. South Africa exists as a country, and I know we always say, no, countries are coming out from it's part of colonial legacy or whatever. Hey, you might think that, but everyone else is just thinking they want to protect what's theirs. They want to protect what is in their country, what is in their vicinity. They want to make money from that. So ain't nobody trying to give anything for free. It's not happening. And also being anti-markets, massive, massive turn off from my side. I think they're a great bunch, young people, energetic, whatever. But yeah, also a bit anarchist at the same time. But anyway, like I'm saying, if the values were good, I think EFF would be a strong contender. But to be anti-markets and then you talk about the state, come on. Because I think a lot of people might associate the EFF as trying to become a China one day, or EFF moving South Africa to a China. No, that's being delusional. The EFF's position and the values are that of Cuba, Venezuela, Zimbabwe. All countries which have failed, especially failing people that live there, because people there are starving. So now the problem that I just have in general with EFF, if you anti-markets, people are going to starve. We need money. You need money. And even if you are going to increase state capacity, whatever they talk about, you need partners. EFF is ready to make an enemy of anyone. Hence, they don't relate with China. They may relate on the Marxist things and all of that, but economy wise, China is friendly with America, or China has trade relations with America. They don't stand on a podium and tell America to go shove it just because they dislike the leader. So a lot of these differences between the EFF style and China, for me, EFF would move South Africa towards Cuba, and that is scary. That's scary. Thanks so much for watching. That's all I have for you today. Before you go, please like this video and also please subscribe to my YouTube channel.